So we're just getting ready to start in a minute or so. If you haven't gotten your workbook, if you head over to the link in your email, it's on the website link here as well for tintos.ca/webinar. It is on the right-hand side, and if you click that button, it automatically downloads. Morning, Darlene. Good afternoon, rather.
Amy, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So are we ready to start?
We're set. We're all ready on this end.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. Lovely to see all of you today. Bonjour tout le monde. And my name is Darlene Boileau, and I sit on the board of directors of the Ottawa branch for the National Association of Federal Retirees. Since the fall of 2020, we've organized over 12 webinars on different healthy aging topics to promote healthy living. And we've looked at issues and items such as end-of-life advanced planning. We've looked at exploring options around retirement living and long-term care, and as well as hopefully engaged you and motivated you into our exercise and nutrition sessions. Recognizing that the COVID-19 pandemic is still upon us, unfortunately, the safety, physical health, and mental health of our members and community continue to be a priority. And so we at the Ottawa branch hope that these webinars are informative and encourage you to maintain your membership, but also encourage you to seek others and let others know that they should and can become members. That is why today I'm delighted on behalf of Ottawa branch to welcome you to this virtual session with Amy Friesen, which will speak to the costs to consider when aging at home and the costs when moving to alternative living options. Au nom de la section d'Ottawa, je suis ravie de vous accueillir à ce webinaire présenté par Amy Friesen. We've had Amy with us in the past, in the fall, and we've had some great sessions with her, and I'm hoping and I know that today will be a very great session as well. Please note that the webinar will be presented in English, but participation in both official languages is encouraged at all times. J'encourage ceux et celles qui préfèrent poser vos questions de le faire en français, et nous serons là pour vous aider et vous assister. Today's webinar is being recorded, and our branch will send you an email after the presentation with instructions on how to access the recording, as well as information on how to join the association or give the gift of membership. Now let me introduce our presenter for today's session, which is Amy. She's a best-selling author, multi-award winner, and specialist in the retirement living industry for the last 17 years. In 2014, Amy founded a local company called Tea and Toast, which serves seniors and specializes in retirement and long-term care homes. Today's course is an introduction to the what's that you may want to start planning for as part of the financial costs that may be incurred when aging in your own home, or costs to consider when moving into retirement living or long-term care facilities, and what can be claimed from an income tax perspective. So please join me in giving Amy a warm welcome. And Amy, over to you.
Thanks, Darlene. I would say that I think we're at record numbers, so that's amazing. Just so you know, before I shut off my camera, I am going to shut off my video, so you may see a picture of me, but not me live. And if you go to the top corner of your presentation, there's 3 dots, and you want to look at standard view, and it should make the presentation larger. Just so you know, otherwise you can still see everything. It just might be on the side of the picture. So I'll turn this off so you can have a look. Okay. So today we're going to discuss what are the costs, and we're going to talk about in-home, for long-term care, as well as what do they look like in retirement living. And again, if you don't have the workbook, it was something I put together for you to follow along with, and you can get that at teaandtoast.ca/webinar. And we can go from there. So some people are having an issue with the link. It is a second link in your email, but if you just go directly to this website address, on the right-hand side, it is the workbook. On the left-hand side, it's a placeholder for where I'm going to put the video, so it's not active yet. So we'll continue from here, and first we'll talk about some of the housekeeping items. So for questions, we're going to wait until the very end to answer questions. And if you can see on the bottom of your screen, it should be a Q&A part. And if you wouldn't mind putting your questions in there as we go, then we can address them all at the end. And try not to do too much in the chat box just because we might lose your question. Also, again, this isn't a bilingual presentation, but we do encourage participation, and Darlene's here to help us with folks who would like to speak French. And again, if you want to see full screen, go to the top 3 dots and there should be a standard view there. So Darlene did my intro, and basically what I would like you to know is I've been working in the seniors living industry for the last almost 2 decades, both in retirement living as well as long-term care. And this year and last year, we've created a course and we've created a book. But really, mostly what I'd like you to know is that we've been working with families in these last 2 decades and really have helped thousands of them. So I'm very, very fortunate to do this as a career, and my team and myself love what we do. And just a little bit, I know everybody likes to see the fam pics. So just a little bit about us. Eva and Mike are my family, and then those are all the pets. And of course, my tractor trophies, if you've attended before, you know all about them. But I find that I can relate to a lot of the families that we work with because I have a good understanding of caregiver burnout, but I'm also on the opposite life cycle as a lot of people. I've got a 3-year-old, and although it doesn't look exactly the same, there's a lot of things that happen in our life currently that are happening with my families, especially things like video touring. You know, the families are touring video touring the retirement residences, and I was doing that with preschools for Eva, things like that. And also, I'm a huge animal lover, and a lot of people are concerned about retirement living and leaving their animals. And so I can speak to people about that as well. And the good thing is that most of the time you can bring your pets with you when you make a move. So these are just little tidbits about my family, just so you have a little bit more knowledge about us. Okay, so today, this is the agenda for today. So we're going to go over the costs to consider when you remain in your home for home care as well as renovations. We're going to talk about care level terminology, as well as what is a long-term care home. And after that, we'll follow up with what is a retirement home and what can I claim? And then we'll go to your questions. So let's start with home care. When we're talking about home care, we're discussing care that can be brought into the home that you currently live in. And we're going to talk about costs to stay safe at home. So the 2 different levels of care, or 2 different ways to do care at home, would be through the Local Health Integration Network, which is called the LIN, which was just renamed April 1st, but it's still valid, and through private home care. Now, a little bit about the LIN. The LIN provides access to home and community care services for Ontario residents, both in their home or a retirement home. There are 14 local health integration networks across Ontario, and the LINs are community-based, non-profit organizations funded by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. The cost of home care is then covered by government through things like our tax dollars. However, there is a qualifying process and a waiting period for the LHIN services, as well as a set amount of available hours per person. We don't go into detail about this in this webinar. However, I do speak in other webinars about it, so please feel free to email me and I can see if I can answer your questions. But for the purposes of this webinar, just know that there is home care available through the LHIN, which is a government subsidized program, and the qualifying process that goes with it. Now, on the other side, we're looking at private home care. So how does this differentiate from the LHIN? What's available? And what kind of costs and time allotments come with private home care? So how does private home care differ from the LHIN? Private home care is through either a home care company or individuals that are in the community. For this purpose, we're going to talk about home care companies. And so they are private pay, meaning that you pay for whatever care you would like to have for yourself or for your loved one. And in Ottawa, they usually range, including companionship up to nursing level support. You're somewhere around the $30 to $40 an hour mark. The benefit of private home care is that there are unlimited amount of hours. So you don't have to qualify for this home care, and you can choose how many hours you're going to get. There's an extended amount of services you can access with home care. So when you're looking at the LHIN, they say, okay, you're qualified for this and this, but with home care, it's not a qualifying process. So you can add in whatever home care services you find fit, or if they have any recommendations. You can also use home care to do things like cooking your meals, doing laundry, housekeeping, errands, things like that. And again, like I said, there's no qualification hurdles. So you would just contact these folks and they would set up an assessment for you. Services that home care offer include companionship, personal care, which is a personal support worker, nursing care, housekeeping, and transportation, as well as much more. Again, the LHIN does provide some of these services, but at quite a reduced rate. So the costs that are included in home care, as I said, range. Companionship could be anywhere from $25 and up, and then you're looking at personal care. So the more personal care and support and nursing care, the more the cost is per hour. There's also 24-hour care available through the home care companies. I've definitely had a lot of clients use this, or live-in care. They do look different. 24-hour care means you're staffing people to come in and out all 24 hours. And live-in, although they are there 24 hours, they actually live there. So it's staffed a little bit differently. And minimum hours. So a lot of home cares do have minimum hours. So some do a minimum of 1 hour, but many do a minimum of 3 hours. So this is something to ask and to consider when you're talking about the cost of home care, because if you only need one small thing a week and you go with a home care provider that is doing a minimum of 3 hours a week, 3 hours a visit, then you might want to look at other home care providers that can provide a smaller amount of time. Also, people feel sometimes that they have to entertain the home care people coming in. So really figure out what your care needs are, and then you can base it on how many hours you actually need. The other costs to stay at home are things that have to do with safety. So modifications to consider. So we've talked about this in previous webinars, but things like bathroom redos, adding raised toilet seats or grab bars, redoing flooring. Sometimes people put in stair lifts. All of these things, and ramps, all of these things do contribute to a cost to stay at home. So if you're looking at staying at home, you really need to blend what renovations do I need to do to make things safe, and do I need home care or other types of services to come to my home, and what does that include? A lot of people don't take the time to outfit their home, although they want to stay home as long as possible. And they don't go through it and take the time to maybe get a fall alert system or grab bars properly installed and things like that. But really, what I can say is that if you do want to stay at home, invest the time to figure out what you need and then invest the money to go ahead and do that. Because more often than not, when people don't do that, then they're not able to stay in their home because there's falls are a number one reason why people go to hospital and end up in retirement living or long-term care home before they want to be there. So what I can say to you is definitely make sure that you do the cost for staying at home to include the modifications as well as home care and other services. So we're going to go over the differences between a long-term care home and a retirement home. But first, let's discuss the care levels. It's important to know what care levels are, what we're working with, so that you can understand the differences between retirement home and long-term care homes, because the care levels, the definitions are the same, but each home does something different. So I'm going to talk about care levels, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty. So independent living, in a retirement living, a senior is referred to as independent when they do not require any assistance with their activities of daily living, which means that they can come and go as they please. Maybe they get meals, but they don't need any care support. Now, supportive living is a term that is used to describe the assistance being offered to an independent seniors. So oftentimes supportive living includes help with a bath or help getting into a bath, and sometimes medication, as well as the meals and housekeeping services. One person assistance, meaning one person to assist, often means that there are a variety of ADLs that need to be taken care of. So in this instance, one person, for instance, a personal support worker, is required to offer hands-on help in order for the activity to be completed. So envision you sitting on a bed and you're needing one person to tuck their arm under yours to help you out of bed. That's a one-person assistance. And then to add to that, the two-person assistance, meaning that there's a lot of activities of daily living that need to be taken care of. And I didn't go into the definition of activities of daily living, but they are things like going to the washroom, getting bathed, things like that. So personal care. And so in a situation where people need the two-person to help them, remember that bed that you're sitting on, you're going to need one person on either side of you to get out of bed, or you won't be able to get out of bed easily. Also in this category are lifts, mechanical lifts and ceiling tracks. Ceiling tracks often are in the hospitals and the nursing homes, and mechanical lifts usually you'll find in retirement living and more so in the home. And then they also have slings that you have to use with the mechanical lifts. So these are just the brief terminologies to bring you up to date with what each of the homes can offer, and I'm going to go into a bit more detail now. A long-term care home is also called a nursing home and has an interior that often resembles a hospital. Seniors receive assistance with their activities of daily living, such as bathing and eating, and 24-hour nursing support is provided in all of the homes. Now, the distinguishing features of long-term care. So we're going to touch on three different areas: that they're publicly run and the waiting lists, as well as which care levels are available there, and the cost and room sizes. Sorry about that. So publicly funded and waiting lists. So the long-term care system is funded and overseen by the Ministry of Long-Term Care. There is a qualification process through the LIN, which we just spoke about. And so you have to go through a process and add your name to a waiting list. In Ottawa, the waiting lists are usually anywhere from 3 years to about 10 years. And so, as you can see, it's not the easiest thing to get into, but there are definitely different strategies, and that's why a lot of people stay at home. That's why a lot of people go into retirement living as well. The care levels that are offered in long-term care include the 1 and 2 person assistance, as well as palliative care, just to give you a bit of an overview. So in long-term care, they don't usually admit the folks that are independent or need some supportive assistance, really low needs and physical care needs. The nursing homes or long-term care homes usually are having folks move in that need substantial assistance into the homes all the way up to palliative. Now, the rooms and the cost. So basic rooms in the nursing homes usually were 4 people to a room, and all of these are government mandated pricing, and the government does change them. So basic rooms are about $1,900 a month. And I'm going to get back to my red arrow in just a second. Semi-private rooms are 2 people to a room, around $2,300 a month, and private rooms are $2,700 a month. Now, in this instance, during COVID, what's happened is something called Directive 3. And Directive 3, I'm going to read you just an excerpt from it so you can understand. Admission cannot result in a resident being placed in a room with more than 1 other resident, which means that there's no other, usually when people go back to hospital or are being admitted from the community, they can be admitted in this basic room where there's 4 beds. But because of COVID, now the 4-bed rooms do not exist. It's only 2 people per room. So now we're looking at a scenario where the basic room is at $1,900 with 2 people in a room, and the semi-private room is 2 people to a room, but it's $2,300. And the basic room is the one that the government can subsidize. So people always ask me, what happens if we run out of money? You know, one of the things that happens is that if you're in a nursing home, you would be in a basic room, and then the government could subsidize from there. This also results in 800 less beds throughout Ontario, which, as you can tell, with the waiting list that I just talked about, is pretty substantial, and it's going to take some time to sort out. But just so you have an understanding of what's going on with the long-term care homes. Now, in long-term care, everything that you need is provided. So care is included in this price. Your personal hygiene items are included in this price. I believe the only things that are extra are phone, cable, internet. The rooms also come furnished, so you don't have to worry about that either. So a retirement home. We'll talk about retirement living and get into its costs. It's a little bit less straightforward, so I'll take a little bit extra time here. So a retirement home is a home-like setting that blends living in your own home with having additional care and services available. Retirement homes often have a focus on social, environmental, and instrumental activities of daily living. Many homes also support activities of daily living and have 24-hour nursing care. So instrumental activities of daily living are things like the social, and then they also do activities of daily living, which means they can do physical care needs as well. Retirement homes are often looked at as more of a social atmosphere. They both retirement and long-term care have activities that they do, but retirement's a bit more social and also has care, whereas long-term care is a bit more focused on the nursing care, but also has social, if that makes sense. So some of the distinguishing features for retirement living that we're going to touch on is that they're privately run. We're going to talk about the care levels as well as the costs and the rooms. In 2010, the government formed RHRA, the Retirement Home Regulatory Authority, to oversee the retirement homes. On the RHRA's website, you'll find inspection reports, information on the retirement homes, such as number of suites, as well as care provided in the homes. Also, there's information on infractions and compliance, and it's an excellent place to start while you're starting to look at different retirement living homes. So between this for retirement homes and the Ministry of Health for long-term care, There's also a lot of links in the download that I provided for you to help you out with that. So this is the RHRA is an accreditation type of setup where every home that offers care and has over 10 people needs to be accredited through the RHRA. Before 2010, it was more of a voluntary system with ORCA. Some of you might have been familiar with. ORCA still exists, but RHRA is the government-run section. So the care levels in retirement living, like I said, include independent, supportive, the one-person assistance, the two-person assistance, and palliative care. Now, not all retirement homes can do all care. So in Ottawa, we have about 18 out of 90 homes that can do two-person assistance, for instance. We're going to go over some costs for independent living. And we're going to start by talking about the care delivery. So there's two main forms of care delivery in the retirement homes, especially in Ottawa, but generally across the board to my knowledge. So first you have the a la carte packaging system, which means that as you need a care option, so if you need medications or transfers, etc., each item will be delivered to you and billed on a monthly basis. Many people feel like the a la carte option is a nickel and diming option, but I can tell you from my own experience that many clients fit better in an a la carte system as opposed to a package care system. I'm working with someone right now who needs to be in a retirement home, but has very, very few physical care needs. And so they can just pick the medication package, which they need, and that will be billed to them on a monthly basis. The nice thing about a la carte is you can add and subtract as you need it. And if you're working with the LHIN to help provide care, you're able to bring the LHIN into most homes and not pay for the service from the home, which is nice. It's helpful for cost savings. It's also helpful for budgeting. And we work with a lot of younger seniors as well, like I said, with the lower care needs, and they don't need all of this stuff yet. And so it's helpful for them if they don't have to pay for things before they need it. And then on the other side is package care. So we're looking at 45 minutes to 60 minutes up to 2 hours. Now, essentially what this means is that you would move into a retirement home and say the home that you moved into only had packaged and not a la carte, and you needed, let's say, transfers. You need someone to help you get out of bed. Then you would sign on for a package of care, which usually then would include help with reminders possibly, so queuing, maybe help with bathing and dressing, help with medications. It's a small package, and you would pay monthly for that. These situations are really good for people who do need a lot of care, and they can get it in one monthly cost and not worry about the budgeting aspect of it. So independent living, a single occupant without care. Now, a lot of people comment that the retirement homes don't post their pricing, and that's probably mostly because everybody's care situation is so different. So they always give you starting at prices, but it's never accurate because you're going to need care or not care depending. So these are prices for someone who is independent, not needing care, who is single, so there's no other second occupant. And so in Ottawa, the studios range from around $2,000 a month to $3,500. One bedrooms are $3,000 to $5,500. Now these are approximate. And two bedrooms are from $6,000 to $11,000. Now that's just basically the rent, right? So that is what it is to go in as an independent resident. It usually includes all the meals and the housekeeping, but no other additional care services. Now, to look at the extra cost to consider, we're really looking at the second occupant, which can be anywhere from $700 to $1,000. So that means if you're moving in with a spouse or partner, sometimes sisters move in together, sometimes cousins. We've moved quite a few different pairings. then there is a cost for that second occupant. And now this cost is only for essentially their room and board. That's not for their care. So if you're in a situation where you and your partner are going to move in, you're going to need to add in the second occupant cost plus any care needs that your partner needs as well as your own care needs. So it can add up. If you've got a one bedroom, say at $5,000, and you don't have any care needs, but your partner's coming in, it could be up to $6,000 plus their care needs. Parking, usually $85 to $150. Then, of course, you have phone, cable, internet. And care, of course, care is one of the big ones. So anywhere from as little as $150, depending on what you need. So that would be like bathing or sometimes minimum medication assistance, all the way up. I've seen care levels up to $3,000 a month. So it really depends on your own personal situation. Personal hygiene items. Everything, if you're moving to a retirement home, everything that you need to take care of. So consider a retirement home like an apartment building with care services and social services. So any personal hygiene items, as well as your tenant insurance. So tenant insurance is usually not too bad, usually between $30 and $50 a month. You would bring your own furniture. Many people decide to purchase new furniture because the room sizes are different and whatnot, but you would bring your own furniture. And when you're first reserving a suite, there is a deposit to be considered. In Ottawa, there's companies that don't take a deposit and you just sign what's called a CHIP, a care home information package. Or there's other companies that take a deposit up to $1,000. Usually I see around $500, and you sign the same CHIP. So the deposit and I would say 99% of the homes is totally refundable. So there's a nice thing about putting a deposit. If you do see something that you really enjoy or you really like in a retirement home, often you can hold that suite for up to 2 months, give or take. And then if you change your mind or care needs increase or whatever the reason is, then you can ask for the deposit back and they'll give it back to you. Most of them is 100%. There's one or two homes in town that have a minimal service charge, but everybody else does it 100%. Can I claim it? We're asked this a lot. I wanted to just touch base on this as I'm not an accountant, but I do come across it quite a bit. So just to give you some extra information for you to look into for your own personal situation. Also on the workbook that I gave you, there's links for this stuff as well. So disability tax credit certificate is something that you can apply for your taxes. Again, you need to have a talk with your accountant, but basically the way that the retirement homes break down their cost structure is usually in a 60-40 split, sometimes 50-50, sometimes 70-30, where one portion will be rent and hospitality services, and the other portion will be care. So you're looking for the rent side, you're looking at room and board, you're looking at meals, and then on the other side, your care services, you're looking at the nursing support, staffing, things like that. So you can definitely claim, you need the disability tax credit, but you can definitely claim some of that on your taxes specifically. Also, Veterans Affairs, sorry, I just want to go back for a second. When we talked about packaged care versus a la carte, for the whole section, it doesn't really matter how the home breaks up the costs. They still do a split for rent and care purposes. So it doesn't matter if you're in a packaged care situation or an a la carte situation, you still are going to get a tax receipt at the end of the year that is going to be portioned properly for you. So Veterans Affairs, there's a lot of things that you can claim for Veterans Affairs. What I see mostly are people that are getting some services through Veterans Affairs, such as yard maintenance and things like that. It doesn't look exactly the same in retirement. And basically what they've been doing, it has changed over the years, but what I've been told lately, what they're doing is even doing like a quarterly intake. So what happened, when I used to work in the retirement homes, we would have to sign off every single month for any veteran to get their money back. But now what they do is more of a quarterly remittance so that they can just send it to you in more of a lump sum. It does cover off some things like housekeeping and stuff like that, but it looks different than in a retirement home. So you want to have that conversation with Veterans Affairs specifically. And then long-term care insurance. I don't know if you've heard of long-term care insurance, but basically it's a type of insurance that you can buy when you're younger. You can buy it, as a senior as well. It just doesn't go as far, but the sooner, it's like any insurance product, the sooner you purchase it, the better off. But basically you can purchase a program. This might be good for any of your children as well to know about. You can purchase a program or an insurance that says, I'm going to put in $100 a month, and when I need to activate it, it's going to result in $3,000 a month coming in every month. So basically the way long-term care insurance operates is that you need to be needing help with 2 of 6 ADLs. So you need help with 2 of your activities of daily living. So maybe you need help with transfers and feeding, for instance. Then you would then go through and you'd qualify. So it needs to be 2 of 6 of them. And again, you want to talk to an insurance person. We always have contacts if you need any contacts for anybody. I didn't put any in the PDF specifically for this, but if you talk to someone who does long-term care insurance, they can give you the breakdown for your age. They can give you the breakdown for your monthly costs and what it will result in down the way. So we're going to go into questions. I'm going to leave just a couple of minutes here. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A box so that I can see it. One of the main questions that I was telling you about is, what if I run out of money? And as I was saying, in long-term care, you would move to a basic room and then you could be subsidized from there. But in retirement, many people downsize rooms if they're starting to run out of money, or if they need to add care. A lot of people downsize rooms, and sometimes they move homes. So sometimes they're in a retirement home that's a bit more expensive and they choose to move to a different retirement home, or also they move into long-term care. So it really depends on your own specific situation. You give me just a minute, I'm going to bring up the questions and answers. So Barbara's asking, aren't some long-term care homes also privately run? There are privately run homes as well as publicly run homes, but they're all under the public system of Ministry of Long-Term Care. And that's what I was meaning by that. They all get funding through the same system, but depending on how the homes run is how the funding is spent. Someone's asking about how you download the presentation. It will be up in, if you had a look on the email I sent you, 24 hours to 48 hours. It'll be up on the link on that web page, so you can have a look there. I haven't finished the presentation yet, so I haven't been able to put it up yet. Is there any other questions today? Got a quiet bunch. Okay, well, it looks like there's no other questions. We've definitely had a lot of folks on the webinar today, so thank you so much. I'm just going to turn my camera on again. Darlene, if you want to turn your camera on. Oh, we have another question that I'll answer just live here, just a minute. Sorry. Oh, Gordon, you're welcome. Gordon said thank you. Okay, Darlene, are you back on? Yes. Okay, you're good. So I don't think we have any other questions. So I just wanted to, Darlene's just saying bye. I just wanted to thank you for You're on mute. You can talk if you'd like. Okay. So I just want to thank you for coming today, and I really appreciate it. If you have any further questions or information, oh, you know what? My questions just exploded. So if you want to hang out for just a minute, let me just bring up these extra questions. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Are there waiting lists for retirement homes? So I can tell you, Barbara, that generally speaking, there usually isn't a waiting list for for retirement homes. But what's happened because of COVID is that the long-term care homes have really been backed up, and they have not been accepting the same volume of people, and it's been drastically reduced. So what's happening is that there's an overflow of services needed. And so you are starting to see waiting lists in retirement homes, specifically on memory care floors as well as assisted living. Independent folks, you can always move to retirement living. There's lots of independent spots, but a lot of the independent seniors now don't want to move from home, as you can understand. And so there is a bit of a waiting list now. We still can find availability, but it's not quite as easy. And for the folks that really need to move right now, sometimes they have to go to a different home, and then they can consider moving down the way if they want to. But it definitely is kind of getting to a part where there's more waiting lists than not. The waiting lists aren't like long-term care though, where, you know, we might be waiting, you know, if you're on a long-term care list, you could be on a list for, you know, like I said, 3 to 11 years, depending. But if you're on a retirement home waiting list, it's only going to be, you're going to be one of 5 maybe, or one of 10 people. It's not as substantial. What do your services or consult services cost? So most of our service is actually complimentary. The retirement homes do pay us for our service, and that's the retirement home search. But because not every retirement home works with advisors, we actually do consulting services as well, and planning. So if you do our future planning service, it's actually $250 plus HST, and we can do a whole plan for you. And then we also do long-term care navigation as well, which is $300 plus HST. I will try to add, we have a video, actually, if you want to have more information on our services, if you go over to our contact page at tntoast.ca/contact, there is a video that explains the whole industry and how our services work. So we just finished that video, so it might be helpful to have a look over there, Edward, or anybody else actually. Okay, there's a couple more questions. If the basic room is now semi, does the government subsidize up to $2,300? You know, I don't think so. I have had many conversations with the LHIN, different coordinators we work with, and they're pretty in the dark about it still too. It's something that's happened really quickly. A lot of the homes were planning to go to this stage, but for 2025. So the fact that they went there automatically, there's a lot of unknowns. But as far as I'm aware, there's always been basic rooms. Some homes never did have the 4 people to a room. They only had 2. So they have a certain allotment. 40% really sticks in my mind. I think it's, you know, they have a certain percentage of basic rooms in each home that the government subsidized. So that's what you're looking for. It's still probably going to become basic though. Are there many co-op retirement communities in Ottawa? I'm not sure, Doug, specifically what you mean, but I don't think so. Retirement communities, like even in Ottawa, there's not very many neighborhoods. Like, as you know, there's some that are building up where it's, you know, the kids will live in the townhouses, and then there's a retirement home, and then there's, you know, adult senior living, independent, things like that. But the retirement homes operate pretty standard as just a retirement home with care, or an independent retirement home, which is only usually meals and housekeeping. Sometimes they're attached, but not in co-op sense. Okay, a la carte delivery, you said you can bring in costs from LHIN. What does that mean? So in the a la carte system, let me back up. The LHIN mostly offers what's called AM and PM care. So if you need assistance with getting ready in the morning, getting up and dressed, showering, getting ready in the evening, That's what they mostly do for assistance in retirement living, as well as sometimes they do incontinence checks as well. If someone is very incontinent, sometimes they'll add a visit during the day. And so if you're in an a la carte home and you qualify for the LIN, that means that the home does not have to provide AM care, PM care, sometimes the incontinence, or they can only a percentage of it. So you save the money that you would be giving to the retirement home, which is probably about, well, it could be up to about $1,000 actually. It could be around $700 to $1,000 depending on if you need all of those services. So that's also another strategy that we use a lot with our clients, is to be able to know, okay, future planning, what's going to happen. You know, do you want the LIN or not? And what is the budget situation as well? Some people do want the LIN to come in and some people don't, because the LIN from time to time doesn't show up on time, or they don't have the same time every day. And so some people want a bit more consistency. But other than that, you can get it subsidized that way. 1 second here. Is there a minimum age to enter a retirement home? I would say the minimum age, we do work with a lot of younger, not even seniors at this point, you know, people under 65 we do work with as well. It depends on the home. So some homes, they want you to be 65 plus. Some other homes that gear a little bit more to independent and then you can add care are open to age range. So it really depends on the company more than anything. Okay, if a person is in the hospital, not go back home. Okay, so if a person is in the hospital and cannot go back home for lack of help, what happens? So a couple of things. If they can't, you know, they have to be discharged from the hospital. So most often it doesn't look like a long-term care home or a nursing home, because there's a whole process in place. You can be discharged from hospital to a long-term care home, but it's quite complicated. Most often what we see is either they go home with care from home care and the LIN and a combination of that, or they go into a retirement home. And again, if they want to combine the LIN as well, you can do that as well. But that's usually what we see happening. Some people go from hospital and they only need a short stay, so they go to a retirement home for what's called a respite stay, somewhere between a month and 2 months, and then they return home. So it really depends on their situation specifically. So could I go into more detail on the differences between private and public run? I'm guessing you're asking about the long-term care system. I don't have a ton of detail on private versus public. I do know that I looked at a map once. I got a map in just a week ago, and Ottawa and the bigger cities have more actual public than private run nursing homes, long-term care homes, but I don't have a lot of details. It's very confusing because the media has definitely added a lot of stress on the community trying to, you know, they're saying one thing about public and private, but then the media's got it confused and then other things are happening. So it's really difficult to stay on top. It's not specifically what we're knowledgeable about. However, because everything is happening now, that's something I'm studying up on. So I can't answer at this moment, but I'm in the works for figuring it out specifically to be able to tell you actual details of more of what that is. Another question. So, okay, so this is the co-op question. Places where people pay to rent private spaces within a large shared home where living and kitchen are shared, are better known models. Okay, so yeah, this model where people coexist in a house and then maybe there's 4 of them and they share, you know, all of the amenities, and sometimes they bring in a care worker, doesn't exist necessarily in a structured fashion in town. Sometimes it's called Golden Girl housing, but otherwise it's not super structured. Phoebe Homes is one company that took a run at it for a while. I haven't heard very much about it. It would be more on an individual basis. There's a couple of Facebook groups and stuff that are, you know, matchmaking for that, but nothing formally that I know of. Okay, I think I got to the end of the questions. Anybody else before we finish? I'm afraid to say we're finished because I got a whole lot of questions last time, or maybe I should say we're finished. Okay, I think that we are. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. It's in the email that you received, and you'll receive another email probably, I think it's tomorrow, and in 24 to 48 hours, the link for this video will be up. Darlene, anything else? Okay, it's all you, Darlene. There's another question. Okay, I got one more question here. Every time I close it, you can see me open it. Okay, do you have to be a resident of Ontario for a certain time period to qualify? I think that I'm not sure what we're qualifying for. So long-term care, the LIN, you need to have a OHIP card. So usually it's 3 months. I think that it's been sped up due to COVID. You need to be an Ontario resident. Yeah. We have a lot of people that come over from Quebec and they have to switch over. Retirement homes aren't quite the same, but for the other two, you do. All right, Darlene, it's you.
Thank you. I think you've unmuted me now, Amy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, everyone. We just need to manage our controls a little bit better. But thanks. Thank you, Amy, for a great presentation. Very helpful information. Thank you all. I know we're losing attendees very quickly. Thank you all for joining us today. Tomorrow you'll receive a follow-up email from Ottawa branch with instructions on how you access the recording of this session and how you register for some future webinars that are upcoming. We encourage you to please look out for our newsletter with a number of sessions that will be joining and will be upcoming, and how you can become an association member or give the gift of membership. All of that information will be in the email that you'll receive tomorrow. So everyone, please stay safe and take good care. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde et à la prochaine. Au revoir.